Hello everybody, I'm Garrula64, and tonight I am going to be your storyteller. This video is a highlight of the Sunset City podcast Halloween episode, which we did a week before Halloween for some reason, where we decided we were going to write our own Sonic creepypasta stories. Now, I've been into creepypasta narration videos for a really long time. It's just very good background noise, and I've listened to a lot of them, so I decided to take this extremely seriously and make a bit of a tribute to all of those channels that I watched for so long. Now, as you watch this, you might hear some familiar music. If you're familiar with the creepypasta scene, you may get some references here and there, and I want you to call them out if you indeed recognize them. The goal also was to make a convincing Sonic-y creepypasta story, so don't expect Shakespeare, but I hope you enjoy.
Go on, Garrulus. You want to read your little story, don't you?
I do want to read my little story. So the idea was, we were going to write, like, a Sonic creepypasta story, and then Pop backed out.
I didn't back out. We'll
no,
get
you
to
did.
my
You
thing.
texted me today and said, hey, I'm backing out.
No, we'll get to my thing, bitch. I did not say... How dare you?
So I wrote a story, so could you put the music on, please?
We might have an ad first. No, we don't. Okay, go ahead.
All right.
You don't have premium?
All right, so for ambience, please, do not speak until the end of the tale. Thank you. The story tonight is called Sonic Adventure Imprisoned. I don't know what to do with these thoughts. Calling into question something I know so well has shaken the very foundation on which I had formed my life. That's a lot of big words to throw around about a video game about a fast blue creature, but these things become more than just pieces of media to some of us. Sometimes they're all we have in a world of fear and pain. I'm getting ahead of myself. You can call me Nate. I'm 34 years old, and I've been blocking out a memory regarding something I hold extremely close to my heart. If you guessed Sonic the Hedgehog, based on my previous paragraph, congratulations! You can follow context clues. Sorry. I don't mean to be rude. I'm just, I'm not sure. I'm a rational person. I always have been. But have you ever stared something in the face that you couldn't rationalize? How would your brain handle it? I'd never thought about it before, but I suppose my coping mechanism was repression. A memory so startlingly hard to rationalize that it was either forget it entirely or never stop thinking about it. Thanks for choosing the right path, brain. Sonic Adventure is something I can look to in times of crisis. I've done many a playthrough of Sonic's first 3D outing when, recovering from bouts of illness, or getting over a breakup, or struggling to deal with the stresses of everyday life, so to speak. I could always turn on the Dreamcast and remember that it doesn't matter. At least, that's how I used to feel. Recently, I've gained the full-time job of attempting to find a full-time job, and after weeks of rejection and radio silence, really wondering why I bothered to get that degree, by the way, I had a slip. I broke. Bills, family, trouble, exercise, eating healthy. What about happiness, huh? When does that come into play? Throwing my coat to its usual resting place on the floor beside my bed, I sank down to a sitting position and reached my hand out, eyes closed, index finger on autopilot to its most frequent destination. It was a cold Friday evening when the phone in the kitchen began to ring. I always liked ripping the thing off its perch on the wall and greeting whoever was calling, but my mom told me to stop doing that because sometimes the callers would think they got the wrong number and hang up, and the calls could be important. Waiting to see my click. My left arm hugged my knees close to my chest as my eager ears waited for an all-too-familiar... As if it were the blanket that kept you warm as a child, the explosion of noise blasting through my speakers brought me relief, drowning out the stressed voice in my head for a moment, allowing me to take a breath and release some of the tension I'd been holding prisoner in my body. Prisoner. My eyelids, formerly resting softly together, snapped open at once. Yeah, I've been feeling like a prisoner, but I don't see my heart's racing. I was excited to play my favorite game, sure, but this is the something's wrong kind of heart racing. I clicked through the menus to reach trial mode, attempting to shake the residual stress that was clearly still eating away at me. If you're unfamiliar, trial mode allows you to choose a character and play any of their stages without having to go through their entire story. Usually, I'd play the gauntlet of Sonic's levels and maybe some Gamma if I was really wanting to blow shit up. Today was a Sonic day, for sure. Emerald Coast, Twinkle Park, Red Mountain. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. So altogether, a full novel's worth of memories flashed their way through my mind. I said I was a rational person, but that doesn't mean I'm in control of my emotions. I sat bolt upright and turned off the Dreamcast without thinking. My brain felt like it got slapped by a live wire as a primal fear climbed its way out of the recesses of my brain. Red Mountain? The prison? What did I see that night? And what did I try to forget? Break. Alright, what do you think so far?
So far, yeah, it's unsettling. He's playing Sonic Adventure, and it's unsettling. How could that be? It's a safe game.
Alright, so now we delve into... I had a really tough time trying to figure out how to delve into the memory, so I literally just put a dash in the middle of the page and just jumped to the next. It was a cold Friday evening when the phone in the kitchen began to ring. I always liked ripping the thing off its perch on the wall and greeting whoever was calling, but my mom told me to stop doing that because sometimes the callers would think they got the wrong number and hang up, and the calls could be important. Waiting to see if my parents would follow through on that conversation, the phone rang once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. 4 is the magic number, I remember. 4 rings, and then I can answer. That's what they said. I leapt up from my place in front of the TV and caught the phone just before its 6th and final ring sounded. Hello, that was a close one. I almost missed you. Nate? Nate, is that you? It's Josh! My friend Josh said, with his mouth way too close to the phone. Oh, it's Josh. Okay. Oh, yeah, I guess I would have been getting the phone either way then. Josh is my best friend from school. We both like the same games, and we got picked on by all the tall kids, so we work together to fend them off, and it's less frustrating that way. Nate, I got the game you told me about, and I need help beating a level. It's one of the ones with the pink girl and the bird. Can you come over and show me how to win? Oh, you got Sonic Adventure? I told him that was my new favorite game of all time. Even better than the old Sonic games. Excitedly, I yelled back into the receiver, yeah, I can help. I'll bike over soon, and I'll bring my memory card too, so you can see all the new stuff if you want. This was not an offer of goodwill. I, in my sneaky brain, felt that Josh would think of all my progress as really cool, and think that I was cool too. Plans were crafted, and parents were informed. After hours, I was biking with my backpack full of sleeping bag and excitement down the street to Josh's big blue house. I always liked Josh's house more than mine. I think it's because it's different though, and I live at my house every day, and only get to see Josh's house sometimes. That and his mom buys better snacks. Oreos in the pantry every time I visit, it's like heaven. Josh threw open the side door with a big smile on his face. He held up his controller, which he'd unplugged from the console for some reason, and was now carrying around the house like he'd forgotten to...
Did you say he threw up?
Threw open.
No.
Oh, threw open.
open.
Okay, proceed, sorry.
He threw up everywhere, and his head spun in circles.
Awesome.
Alright, he held his controller, which he'd unplugged from the console for some reason, and was now carrying around the house like he'd forgotten where to plug it in. Maybe his Dreamcast brought him as much comfort as mine used to. Now, this wasn't just any sleepover. Josh's parents had promised to order a pizza for dinner, and we had soda? Yeah, scratch that like heaven quote. This is the Garden of Eden, because I'll be eating all that pizza pretty soon. My adult mind winced about having remembered this incredibly stupid joke. I didn't even say it out loud. I must have been really proud to lock that one down in my steel trap of a brain. Anyway, hours of laughter and red sauce-stained shirts later, Josh and I were in sleeping bags on his bedroom floor. He just booted up his Dreamcast and plugged the controller in, and handed it to me with expectation in his eyes. Now that I was full of pizza, I could do anything. Turns out, Josh was stuck on the level where Zero the robot is chasing Amy through a big mechanical level, and there's a lot of puzzles. Josh watched as I collected the colored cubes and dropped them in the matching holes. Him quietly kicking himself for not being able to find that last one. In the room ahead, I knew there was going to be a jump scare where Amy thinks she's safe, but Zero explodes out of the TVs to try and scare you. Being careful to hide the Grinch-like smile that was forming on my face, I handed him back the controller and said, "Oh, I need to sneeze. Here, you take over." I hid my mouth and my nose in my hands, almost in prayer pose, but I was just making sure to hide my laughs. As Josh looked around the room, he approached the center. One by one, the TV screens changed to show the intimidating form of Zero before wham! Josh let out a yelp and dropped the controller.
Whoa.
It hit the carpeted floor with a dull sound. and as I began to laugh, I could hear the footsteps coming down the hall from Josh's parents' room. Darn, we've been too loud. We're always too loud for Josh's parents. It's a throwback to the worst thing to happen during a sleepover, if anyone remembers.
Yeah.
It's like, oh fuck, the parents woke up, oh shit!
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's the worst.
After
Remember getting a fucking
you pretend to be
TV remote
asleep, you're
hurled
like,
at my head.
fuck!
That could make for a good indie horror game.
After a brief check-in and a highly encouraged go to sleep, Josh turned the volume off on the TV and quickly finished the stage so he could save his progress. I felt a little bad for making them yell at Josh, but Josh is always a crybaby, so, I'm sure he'll get over it quickly. Yeah, fuck Josh. Not like any real harm was done anyway. He was just a goof. Josh got up and flicked the lights and raced back to his sleeping bag, covering himself head to toe to avoid being seen by the shadow creatures his mind convinced him were there. And before long, I could hear his soft breathing confirming that he was out like a light. As always. See, that's not hard to explain, because out like a light makes sense to everyone. Unless you don't have electricity, I guess. I would hate to not have electricity. My parents told me once that I was born 10 years earlier, I would have never survived. Hours pass. My mind racing as I turned back and forth trying to find a comfortable sleeping position. Challenge level impossible when on the floor of your friend's house. Josh hadn't even gotten me a spare pillow before he conked out. Never change, Josh. Never change. I can't see the clock on the wall, but I think the hands are pointing somewhere between the 3 and 4, so it was early. Or late. Depends on how you think, I guess. Knowing that insomnia is in charge tonight, I sit up, exhausted but wide awake. My eyes want nothing more than to slide shut. But when I can't sleep, I look over at the Dreamcast that Josh's parents somehow let him keep in his room. If my parents made that mistake, they'd lose me to that room, I swear. Carefully making sure the television hadn't suddenly turned the volume up on itself, I was able to avoid the ear-blasting majesty of my favorite game. Slotting my memory card to Josh's controller, all of my saves from back home appeared. What an awesome feature. This console's the best thing ever, and it will be remembered as such, I'm sure. I'm sorry, Dreamcast fans. I loaded myself into the adventure field as Sonic, and the game dropped me into the Mystic Ruins. It was strange viewing this familiar world without the accompanying sounds and songs, but I knew them all well enough to still hear everything in my head. I didn't have a goal in mind, I just thought I'd run around until the sting of the TV screen made my eyes hurt enough to go to sleep. Spin dashing, jumping, and rolling around eventually leads me to the entrance to Angel Island, past the area where you go to the ice cap zone. There's another level called Red Mountain over there, and I remember the name because it's 2 words and it's easy. Nothing better to do, I guide the spinning blue blur into the gateway. Red Mountain's always been a bit of a favorite of mine. It's not just a cool mountain. It's also got this really neat cave section full of magma and giant spiders. Side note, I know it's magma and not lava, because lava is on the Earth's surface and magma is what you call it when it's underground. Speeding through the outdoor section, I finally dragged Sonic into the cavern, hoping to accomplish my goal of finishing the level without taking any damage at all. That was my new personal goal, now that I beat the game a few times over and got bored with raising Chow. This would be the most challenging part. With so many obstacles to get in the way, and the floor is literally magma, sorry. Using spin dash jumps and some careful homing attacks, I was racing closer to the end of the level when all of my momentum ceased at a sight I hadn't ever come across.
That's scary. That's genuinely scary. Is this Sonic 4?
Momentum.
It is. You see, in Red Mountain's cave section, there's a famous set piece featuring a prison cell and a set of odd, ghoulish prisoners. I mean, that on its own was always curious to me, but nothing could have prepared my inquisitive little brain for what I saw when I got here this time. I'd played this game at least 4 times all the way through, raised Chow for countless hours, and explored every possible nook and cranny with Sonic, but I'd never seen the prison door open before. I looked over to Josh, who had flipped onto his side and was now drooling on the floor, not even using his pillow at all. Yeah, I could have used that, Josh, but okay. How Josh managed to unlock this new part of the game when he was requesting my expertise to finish an admittedly easy level, I have no idea. I could feel a desire to wake and grill him about this secret when I realized this was my save data. Could playing on Josh's console have unlocked some kind of secret friend-locked area that I'd never heard about? My eyes shone so brightly they could have lit up the darkness around me as I guided Sonic into the formerly locked prison cell. It was much deeper than it looked from the outside. Not a simple holding cell, but a veritable ballroom for convicts. Hold on, that's right, the convicts. The prisoners? Where did they go? Oh, duh, I think to myself. Obviously, if the cell door is open, the prisoners would have just left. Otherwise, they'd get locked up again. Content with this explanation in my mind, I kept running into the seemingly infinite distance. I felt a yawn sneak its way up my throat when I had to face facts. This new area was a dud. I'd been running for at least 10 minutes in a straight line, and even doing some spam spin dashes for good measure. But not a single badnik, or goodnik for that matter, showed their face. Deciding it was time to turn around and finish the stage, I reluctantly flipped Sonic in the other direction, ready for the long run back, when I was met with the sight of prison bars. Immediately, upon turning around, Sonic was right back where we started, but the gate that allowed me entry was closed. Moving Sonic closer to the bars, I hoped I could simply walk through them from this side, but no, they were solid, just like from the other side. When had it closed? Why hadn't I heard... Oh, right, there's no volume. So, Sonic is stuck in here? Okay, I'll pause and leave the level, or... I guess that's what I would have done, if the pause menu was working. Ugh, this is stupid. Josh's Dreamcast must be overheating, because we used it all day. Ugh, I moved my hand to the power button, ready to release Sonic from his cage, when I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. Looking up at the screen, the camera had flipped around to show Sonic behind bars, standing and staring out at nothing. His idle animation decreased in speed until his body was barely moving. And that's when I saw the hands. All along the hedgehog's form, the shadowy visage of dozens of hands reaching for his eyes, pulling his arms and legs towards the floor, locking him in place like an action figure. Before the hands obscured his face completely, I recognized a quick flash of fear in his eyes before his light blue fur begins to darken. No, fade. Sonic's body grows hazy as the emerald green eyes of the prisoners emerge from the darkness to become the only pinpricks of light on screen. Sonic was basically gone at this point. I didn't know what I was looking at, but I'd seen enough of it. I hit the power button and the screen turned off. I'd sit there in the dark as the TV's faint buzzing trails off. What was that? Game over cutscene? Had I triggered something in the level that I'd never found before? My brain was firing on all neurons. I'm not asleep, it's not a dream. I know I'm not. Why did... mumbling to myself didn't give me any answers. I knew the only thing that would was... I looked back at the Dreamcast. Within a few moments, the screen jumped back to life and I was hovering over Red Mountain again. The level loaded, but after the title card, I was placed directly at the last view I'd seen. The prison bars stood firm and the prisoners were back. But this time there was a smaller figure among them. It's a figure with vaguely hedgehog-like proportions. I paused the game and exited the level, which it allowed me to do this time. And I tried selecting Emerald Coast instead, but I was met with an incorrect buzzer sound. The same followed suit with every stage but Red Mountain, where I'd just be forced to observe the prisoners in their endless dance of captivity. Somehow I had lost Sonic to these spirits. I dropped him right into their waiting hands, and now I didn't know what to do aside from... In the main menu, I navigated to the options and prepared to delete my file. The previously completed save was now missing the S icons to denote the completion of Sonic's stories, reflecting how Sonic was now trapped, or worse. My save was wiped with no issue, and just for peace of mind, I checked Josh's save, and Sonic had returned and was playable in all stages, but I had to know about the prisoners. Were they free in Josh's save file? Was his save file in danger of being ruined as well? The trek through Red Mountain felt like it took ages, but I realized it was partially my fault for intentionally slowing down. I was both eager, but not at the same time, to see what I would see at the end. After reaching the cave, I realized I'd been holding my breath. Letting it go, I progressed further to the dungeon until I met the green eyes of the prisoners behind the bars. The room looked snug, not large enough for the amount of characters housed within, just like normal. Scanning the crowd, I didn't see that smaller figure anywhere, but it did make me think about something. These prisoners, we may not know who they are or why they're here, but my experiences made me look at those green eyes differently. I recognize that green because it's the same green we see whenever we boot up the game. It's Sonic's eyes. And I really don't know what to make of that. The next morning, Josh asked me why I looked like I hadn't slept, and I lied, saying I slept really well, even without a pillow. And I made sure to say that in front of his parents so the subject would change. Josh's parents would go on to bicker with each other and their son before laughing it off and calling my parents to let them know that I was ready to head home. As I went back to Josh's room, I gathered my things and my eyes fell on my memory card. I made it a point to not approach or even look at its direction and headed home. I'd receive a call from Josh later that day letting me know that I left it, but I just lied and told him it was a gift for being such a good host. You know, he can transfer some of my chow to his game if he wants and, you know, win some races. After that, I would spend a lot of time eyeing my Dreamcast from across the room. My parents noticed I was using it less, and so by Christmas, I'd gained 2 more games to play on my console. For a time, I kept myself busy playing new games, especially when Josh would come over, and eventually I would go back to Sonic Adventure as well. Thinking about it now, I don't really understand how I could have repressed this event so thoroughly, but I think I'll refer back to what I said at the start of this whole thing. Rationalization? My young mind knew that something was wrong, and I tried to protect myself. If something I know 100% inside and out could be hiding something like this, who's to say there aren't more horrors hidden in plain sight just waiting for you to stumble into their trap?
Hang on, I need to turn up the music. Why is the music still playing? Hang on, there we go. I'm gonna put the lights back on as well. Pink skeleton, go away. There we go. You took that task way more seriously than I ever would have.
I told you. You said, hey, I'm not going to do it. You know, like,
didn't
hey, I
say
don't want
that.
to do it anymore.
I
I'm going to do something else.
say that.
And I was like, I'm locked the fuck in.
Dylan, that needs to be a YouTube video.
Yeah, you should actually make that a creepypasta thing. You'd get millions of views.
Nah,
yeah, no, I mean, I'll just take the recording from this and yeah.
Yeah, put put Sonic.exe here in the thumbnail as well. Get millions of views. Yeah. That could be the secret. Yeah. No, that was really cool.
Oh,
I actually do have a story.
Thanks.
All right, well, here's my story. You ready?
Sure.
All right, go for it.
Sale, little red shoes, never worn.
Oh, I've heard that one before, but it's like baby shoes never worn.
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
just fucking ripped that thing off.
Oh,